Hey everyone, City of Oakland Councilmember Lynette Gibson McElhaney, District 3, where I live, worked with Oakland District 7 Councilmember Larry Reed to come up with something called a Department of Violence Prevention. And the idea is that this person is supposed to work to gather together a number of resources and lead departments and direct expenditures toward the prevention of violence. Right. The idea itself, because of its very nature, spells that it will fail. Because, as anyone who studies this knows, to reduce urban violence, you have to attack the income inequality problem. The council member, who I respect a great deal and consider a friend, has asserted that, and I'm not kidding, that violence and in Oakland is bad, but she does not connect them to income inequality, or for that matter, racism. For example, and I say racism because she added that in an email to me. She stated that there were other cities that had worse income inequality problems, or had income inequality problems, but that Oakland's violence problem was worse than those other cities. But let's think about that. If Oakland has among the highest apartment rents and housing costs in the country, then it stands to reason that we have a higher income inequality problem than the other cities she's thinking of, right? So if that's the case, then hey, why not connect the fact that we have a high rate of violence to our high rate of income inequality, which then fits right into the pattern? But the council member does not do that. Okay, so by logic, the legislation that was introduced to the Oakland City Council Tuesday night should not have passed, except there were a number of women, primarily black women, who came forward with really harrowing, horrible, sad accounts of domestic violence and other violations placed upon them, and called for something to be done, called for the passage of this idea. People that both Councilmember Reed and Councilmember McElhaney know and work with. But the problem is that the council members, are setting those constituents up for more anger and frustration and false hope. The problem is systemic, and it cannot be solved by one department. When I explained this in a Facebook post this morning, primarily to my friend Ken Houston, the Oakland activist who's actually sitting out on the street with the homeless in East Oakland, he said, Ken and I have never, to my knowledge, disagreed on something, but in spite of that, he says we were disagreed on a number of things, but he agrees with me on this, which I thought was interesting, because I can't remember what I've disagreed with Ken about. At any rate, save for the idea that Ken should have been more aggressive in running for mayor. Okay, but if that's the case, then I'll stand firm with my past statements. But I digress. It was in that context that I introduced my concerns and tagged the good council member and said I still remain with the idea that this department is not going to prevent violence, and that's going to make more Oaklanders more frustrated than ever. Now, I believed I was opening a door toward the continued dialogue of how to, now that we have the department, or will have the department, build around it so that we can actually get to the objective of violence prevention, right? But instead, what I get back is that I am, quote, enamored with my own intelligence, unquote. This is from the council member, from Councilmember McElhaney. For those of you who do not know her, she is a black woman. And then in our exchange, where I must add, I never once insulted her at all, personally. I may not like her idea, but I can dislike her idea and like her. That's common, you know? Heck, I may not like the way a car is designed or that a friend of mine designed, or you get the idea. You can always disagree with something a person does. But it doesn't mean you disagree with them or are being disagreeable toward them, right? She shoots back that opening one of her main paragraphs, or third in the paragraph, that I am enamored with my own intelligence. And then later describes my text tone as acerbic, which is another way of saying that I state my views with confidence. Well, I'm supposed to. It's that message that City of Oakland people have sent me over decades, that, hey, we don't like smart black guys. In other words, we don't like black men whose wheels are turning. This has happened before. I remember in 1998, then Oakland City Manager Robert Bobb asked me to talk to Bill Claggett, who was then the head of economic development and held a job that I really wanted. This was at a time when I was the economic advisor to Elihu Harris, but Elihu had decided not to run for re-election, challenged the now legendary Barbara Lee for Congress and lost, and decided to go on another path. So we were left to find other positions as staffers. And Robert said, go talk to Bill Claggett, and I did. And over lunch at Max's Opera Cafe at Max's Oakland City Center Cafe, excuse me, Opera Cafe is in San Francisco, we talked, and among other things, Bill said, well, Zennie, you talk like you think you know everything. And my response to Bill, who's a friend of this day, but this is what happened, said, my response to him was, I've talked this way since I was 6 years old, in other words, when I was aware of it, and I see nothing wrong with expressing my idea with the same level of confidence that somebody white does. But there are others who feel that there's some sort of problem with that, In other words, just in the normal course of being who I am, oh, my God, you're a threat. Oh, my God. When I told that to Mr. Bobb, as we call him, Robert shot back with this. He said, Zennie, you do talk like you think you know everything. You're young, you're black, you're a threat. Oakland is a crab barrel town. It likes to pull you down. And on the basis of that conversation, I took the job of special assistant or special consultant that he had placed for me or made for me in economic development. And had I not taken that position, it's quite likely that I would never have wound up running the effort to bring the Super Bowl, the 2005 Super Bowl, to Oakland. We lost to Jacksonville. And I still remain the only person in NFL history to form a bid for the Super Bowl to be hosted in Oakland. Now, prior to that, going back to 1987, and my intern job, my first job out of grad school with the Oakland Redevelopment Agency, a good man named Gene Morris, who sat on the other side of my wall, in the other cubicle, once said to me, man, you got 3 problems. You're young, gifted, and black. He was also black. My point is that Oakland has a history, the city of Oakland in particular has a history of doing what it can to chase away someone black and male who basically expresses with confidence an idea. Oh, and the reason why this is an enormous problem is because there was a time, not too long ago, when blacks were discouraged from having an education, let alone discouraged from reading, okay? Or if you want to go a step further, in some cases, lynched. That's within our life. That's within my lifetime, going back 54 years, because I was born in 1962, and that type of activity was going on when I was born. Okay? So is that to say that we have today a group of people who are black, who are so much still a part of that idea, that mentality, they can't handle someone else who's black, who is, well, using their brain just as anybody, regardless of color, would. Black and male. And I say that because it's okay, the message is that it's okay for a black woman to be that way, particularly in the city of Oakland, but not a black man. And that has been a historic problem. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible dynamic to have active. And what I'm saying to the city is, please, stop doing that. And for Lynette to please, don't do that. It's just a request. I will never insult Lynette or anybody else, but I am pointing out this problem. You know? Thank you.